All right, here we go. Andy, you ready?
Ready.
Five,
Yeah, go ahead.
4, 3, 2, 1. We're on it.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your time, Andy.
My pleasure, Sanjay.
We had a really good time a couple of days back. The party was really fun, and I have a nice selfie photo of both of us that I'm gonna try to show it to everybody right towards the end.
Yeah, and I was trying to extract that from Instagram.
Yeah,
I can't find it now, so I will have to ask from you separately. No?
I'm gonna send it to you right now.
Excellent, man.
It's a pleasure to have you with us, and again, let's kickstart by a word that means very big to me now, especially after or in between COVID, or now, wherever we are in terms of COVID. The word for me that is very big is the digital world.
Okay.
It's opened up my horizons as well, and it's opened up a way that I can connect with the audience as well right now, the audience who are listening at the moment. And what does the word digital mean for you? I just want to start off by that.
For us, it's sustainability, really. I mean, I'm going to say it or link it to the business that I do, obviously. I mean, for me as a consumer, I love that space, like yourself. No? I don't know what I would do without internet access, without smartphones and so on. But for us as a business, it is about sustainability. And by that, I mean, if you are not able to move down to a digital space, whether you're a brick and mortar company like FMCG industry or ourselves, which is a little bit more in the tech space, I think you get lost, essentially. Just as a concrete example, in the last 2 and a bit years with the COVID, it has heightened our need to move even faster, actually. We realize our consumers are not engaging with us digitally. Yeah, so the whole value chain and how we serve customers, there's a bit of brick and mortar in between, and that didn't help us during the pandemic because people have no access to things. So we move forward and build a lot of digital assets to basically is to connect people without them coming to us physically. Now, we're not quite near the end game, of course, and I don't know if we'll get there anytime soon, but certainly we made a huge progress to make that happen. By the way, our aspiration as a company and also as a group, and also not different from all the other mobile operators, is to be a digital operator. I don't know if you know, there are some operators where there is no call center, there is no office, there's nobody you can call. You want to buy a SIM card, you go online, click, and the SIM card arrives at your door. You put it in, you activate, and everything works. And if you've got a complaint, it's crowdsourced. The customers tell you what to do. So they don't, that's digital. No, there's no physical contact. That is good and bad, no?
Sometimes I feel like I want to go ahead and call the customer care and talk to a real human being.
Yeah.
There are times when, I can just go ahead and search things online and just go to a page and just try to understand what the reviews are, or how did other users solve their problems, and just solve it right away.
A classic example is banking. No, I think I'm a late bloomer for banking adoption. Yeah, so in the past, say 20 years ago, I would want to walk physically into a bank to do my stuff because I need to be able to squeeze somebody's neck if something doesn't work.
Yeah.
Today, I'm quite happy sitting on my phone. I'll just click. I will transfer 5-digit numbers to somebody else. It's okay. It will get there.
Yeah.
So we have that comfort. So I think that's really important. That has changed. My daughter, I don't think has stepped into a bank.
Hasn't yet, huh?
Yeah, I don't think she probably has to open an account.
Yeah.
But beyond that, nope.
You really don't need to go.
No, exactly.
We'll jump into how we can change things here in Nepal, but I want to understand a little bit about where you're coming from as well. Tell everybody a little bit about Malaysia.
Malaysia. I love Malaysia. I always say it's a great place for expatriates. I born in Malaysia, lived there for a long time, probably less than half my life so far.
Yeah.
So I've been around a little bit, went to school abroad like many Malaysians do. So Australia and Singapore is my second homes. And now Nepal, I've been here for 5 years.
Yeah.
One of the longest stay in a foreign country, actually, apart from Australia and Singapore. Yeah. So I've been to Indonesia as well. So Yeah, Malaysia is a great place. I love it. But my work takes me where I need to be.
Yeah.
And I love what I do, actually.
I'm glad, and we've met so many different times, and I'm really happy, and I'm really thankful that you're here. And there's certain things that it touches me whenever I go to Southeast Asia, you know. And one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you about was I love traveling, and Ncell has helped me in that. And some of you guys in your team really know that, because every time I start off and I'm taking off, sometimes I've literally called friends at Ncell saying, I'm about to take off. Hey, I need to go ahead and figure out my roaming right away. I'm lucky that I get to do that. And again, anywhere in Southeast Asia, in majority of the places, or it could be the West, the roaming services has really helped me out. And I personally want to thank you that right away, right in the get-go. You know, that is something that's been an integral part of my travel plans, making sure that I top off my Ncell and use roaming wherever I go.
Wow. I mean, that's the best compliment for me, you know. I mean, firstly, I should be able to take no as a compliment. You know, that your service not working so great, I think that's a compliment.
No.
For you to say is, you know, making sure that it works before you leave and that it all works well for you, I mean, that's the best compliment anybody can get.
And I'm not saying that because you're here. And no, it really has helped me a lot. Tell me about your journey with Ncell right in the beginning, day one, when you were here, when you landed in Nepal.
Yeah, sure. If you don't mind, I'll just take it a little bit one step back. Obviously, the way we landed in Ncell was I was part of a team that started exploring markets and seeing where the opportunities might be, and Nepal was one of those. And in Nepal, Ncell was the only opportunity that we could explore. So I was here as early as 2015, going through a due diligence, working with Ncell team to make sure that the business is what we think it is. And in 2016, we concluded the deal. Now, interestingly, my group CEO then said, Andy, you had recommended we buy this company. Can you please go out there? I said, oh, no, I didn't sign up for that. And that's a true story. So I said, no, I can't. So I didn't commit to come in April 2016, which is when the parachute the team in here. I think sometime in June, July, the CEO then, from Axiata obviously, called again and said, Andy, we need help for now. If you don't want to come, you can come and stay for a few months until we find somebody. I said, okay. I was at the time roaming around in Italy, actually, and that's the truth. In Italy, I said, I'll be back in August 1st, and I can come here on August 2nd. So I did come here on August 2nd, initially for 3 months, and then they needed another 3 months, and then they needed another 3 months, and then I left in February 2017.
Yeah.
And that was the first part of my stay here. Now, during that time, I had never intended to be kind of like commit to staying in Nepal or a job in Nepal. It's nothing to do with Nepal. It's just me personally. Then came late 17, the new CEO called again and said, oh, we kind of would like you to come back if you're keen to come back. And it was a very quick decision from me. Yeah, and that was because in the first 9 months I realized it was something I loved doing. And partly because of the place and the people that I was working with at the time.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so I said, yeah, I'll be back. 2018, I came back, Jan, and the rest is history. I'm still here.
Yeah.
And, I think I might be here for a little while longer now. I'm on air, so I'm not going to say when I'll be here until.
It's the people, it's the place. What is it? Or is it a combination of both that keeps you?
Yeah, I like the place, firstly. Obviously, the people has a big role. I spend 5 days a week, and whole time I have nothing else here, nobody else here. So the people definitely, but the place, there's something I like about the place in that it's a peaceful place. There's no distractions. I don't know if you know what I mean. I mean, you go to a city like New York. I know you've been many, many times. I follow your trails. Whether it's New York or San Francisco or Singapore, I mean, geez, there's a lot of distractions. No?
Yeah.
Malls and lights and options. Which butter do you want? There's like 100 different versions of butter on the shelves. Here is great. You don't have to think too much. You walk to the supermarket, you say, I hope there's butter, not how many brands there are. If there's one, you grab it, and that's great. So that simplicity kind of appealed to me, actually.
Yeah.
That's basically what it was. and the rawness of things. Yeah, I do mountain biking like yourself.
Yeah.
Definitely nowhere near as good as you are, but I love mountain biking. I go out there, it's raw, and I just enjoy it actually.
Beautiful. Any golf as well? Whenever you get time, I heard.
I did start golf in September last year, August, September, and I love it too. Yeah, even though there's only one golf course that is kind of truly playable.
Yeah. And
Go-kart.
you're okay with go-kart?
Oh yeah,
you know?
it's brilliant.
Nice.
It's brilliant.
Nice. I'm glad.
Deers and monkeys and snakes sometimes.
I'm glad. A little bit going back in time.
Uh-huh.
When I was young, I was a super young boy, and there was a day, Andy. There was a day when I was hosting an event towards the later part of the 2000s, and I look up in the sky, and there's a helicopter. This is a true story. There's a helicopter up top, and falling down are SIMs of a new mobile phone. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a time when there was a Miro Mobile SIM card that you could go ahead and get. I'm sure you know Miro Mobile pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
That, when I think about it, when this morning when you were coming, and then I got up and I was just thinking about that moment, and I also thought about a moment when I wanted a phone in my life, I wanted a SIM card in my life, and it would take such a long time to get a SIM card in Kathmandu, in Nepal,
Yeah.
Long lines, long queues, X amount of money that you have to go out and deposit, so many different things that you have to do. Now, a click of a button or a small conversation, and you have a SIM card and you have a phone, and you're on your way with the world in your palms. Times have changed. When you look back at the history of telecommunication in Nepal, when you go back, when you look back, when you did your study, when you were thinking that, okay, Axiata should come to Nepal. We've been to other places in Southeast Asia, we've been to so many different places now. All right, it's time to come to Nepal. Regardless of Telesonara being a part of Ncell at that moment, what was the thing that made the Axiata team feel like, okay, we should get into this market and we should be a player in this market in the country Nepal?
Yeah, so our strategy, if you look at our portfolio before we came into Nepal, is basically looking at the frontier markets in a lot of ways. We're in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Cambodia. We wanted to get into Myanmar, although we got in there in a different way. Obviously, Malaysia and Singapore at one point, and idea in India. So we were in Iran at one point, and Pakistan as well. So we were in the frontier markets, and we know, for us to get into certain markets, either the entry barrier is already way past, our willingness to invest in those countries, or it just doesn't make sense. But Nepal presented an opportunity for us because, one, at that time in 2014, when the first idea came around, when we scout around for opportunities, the whole market just looked at the potential was there for us. And truth be told, that ambition, when we look at the potential of Ncell in 2014, 2015, leading to the transaction in 2016, was actually very optimistic. And did it deliver those numbers in terms of the growth? It definitely did. Although Nepal's business has a huge dependency on international long-distance incoming calls. Yeah, and that business is a little bit out of our control because it's people using OTT calling back. Yeah, but that's okay. But the core business itself, which is what we call the core business, is growing well in Nepal, although the pandemic had taken a hit for the whole industry, perhaps also for many countries from that point of view. So that's how we thought about it. It kind of complements the portfolio that we are in. If you look at Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Nepal, it has kind of a common footprint. And that's basically how we thought about it, actually.
And the thought process was looking at what was the population in 2014? Figure that out, X, the population of Nepal in 2014.
28 million, maybe?
28, 29 million, somewhere along that line. You know, there's a saying. It's a small country. We have a saying. But again, I definitely don't.
27 million.
27 at the time. Thanks. At that time, and even now, you know, we consider
Yeah.
ourselves a small country. But do you think we are a small country, Andy?
No, it's not. It's almost identical to Malaysia.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's about 30 million people. In fact, the land mass is almost exactly the same. One is vertical, the other one is horizontal. Yeah, it's the same. Okay, GDP per population is different. Yeah, so state of development is slightly different. But no, it's not a small country. That's why we believe there's potential. You only can assume that GDP of any country will grow over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's enough data to say is, telecom growth is proportionate to some extent GDP growth. So they will kind of grow hand in hand. So that's why we say there's potential.
When Axiata decided to buy in and come to Nepal, what was the rate of smartphone phone users back in the day, if you remember?
Oh,
Not trying to quiz you here.
yeah, you put me on the spot here.
Okay, don't worry.
2015.
All right, let me do this. Literacy rate is 67.9%, and 32.1% are still illiterate here. You know,
That's correct.
we definitely want them to be the users. You know, not just Ncell, but again, overall, get into the digital
Yeah.
sphere.
Sure.
How do you think in 2022, you know, how can we digitize Nepal? You know, what are the key factors do you think we need to go ahead and digitize Nepal? Not just in terms of telecommunications.
Yeah, sure. In fact, over the weekend there was a conference at Solti, and I don't know if you were there, but
The conclave.
that was a theme, and there are many factors that has a role to play to ensure that Nepal gets digitalized over time. It's not about technology, by the way. It's about consumers. It's about people adopting the technology. For us, I think of most companies, technology always leads, and people come in to adopt. Yeah, in Nepal, I think there are some constraints from a couple of perspectives. One is access to technology at the right price. Yeah, so it's access and affordability. Now, that 30-odd% that you talk about, majority of these folks may be living in the outer areas of semi-urban and so on, or in the hills. So it presents a challenge, obviously, for any one of us to go out there to bridge that technology access. Now, we have an obligation to do that, and so is NTC and whatever mobile operators. Yeah, so we have an obligation to bridge up to 95% population coverage. There will still be the few percent that can't get access to it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can certainly get access to satellite, but then affordability becomes an issue. I think first thing is not about technology. One is the investments that we all make as a company needs to be supported in the right way with the right policies and frameworks from the government, obviously, who has control of the spectrums, who has control of certain frameworks that allow us to do it economically and feasibly. I think that's probably the key driver. And until they get access to these technologies, it's going to be hard to get consumers to adopt things over time.
Interesting. You know, yesterday I was sitting down with a friend of mine, and he's into the EV market, electrical vehicle market, and we're just having a quick chat over a coffee, just trying to figure out what the future is going to be like. And he said something that was very interesting, and I told him I am definitely going to be talking about this with a friend of mine who's going to come tomorrow. And what he said was, change is something that it's very hard for us humans to adapt to something new, adapt to a change. We will question it, and we might be negative towards it in the beginning, unless we try it. You know, but to get people to try that is the hardest part. One thing that he said, which was even more interesting for me, was, it's tough, Sanjay. That's what he said. It's tough because we constantly have to think about so many different things, you know, so many different things in our daily lives, may it be electricity, may it be water, may it be paying our rent, you know, or may it be just the inflation that's going on right now. that we don't really want to go. There's so many changes happening around us constantly that we cannot. Why burden ourselves by adding one more change in our life? Like maybe getting an electric vehicle, or maybe going ahead and getting something new, a newer technology. That's another burden that we have. So let's try to figure out how to go ahead and tell people that change is inevitable. We have to change, we have to evolve, and that kind of put a seed in my brain. What do you think of change? What's your take on change?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Actually, change is obviously the cliche word is inevitable. It's the only constant, so on and so forth. Now, yeah, it's just human nature, no change. Think about it. When you go out to the shops to buy toothpaste, do you really think about which toothpaste brand I'm going to buy? You're just going to go walk to the shelf, pick the same toothpaste that you used for the last 15 years,
Yeah.
and use it. No, that's also relating to change, no? As simple as that. So it relates to human habits in some ways. Obviously, the affordability factor will accelerate change and willingness to adopt. No, for me, would I adopt EV, for example? I think it's a great thing, but I'm not willing to because one, maybe it's expensive compared to a conventional vehicle, and two, I can't charge these things as often or as practical as I want it to be. So those are the constraints for me, okay? But that's a first world problem, It's not
Yeah.
everybody's problem. So, but generally, change is a problem because fundamental needs to be met first before they think about the other things, as you say. They don't want to be burdened with everything else. Why do I need to worry about whether I use a different toothpaste? It doesn't matter. I'll use the same toothpaste. Yeah, and that will only evolve as people can kind of migrate up the Maslow hierarchy, Yeah, when the basic needs are met, then they will look at the next thing they will want to do. But change as a general word is actually a big word, and that change has got a big scale. It's not a small step. So there are many, many steps that different sets of strata of people would need to consider. Yes, resistance is definitely there from that point of view.
Every day in Ncell.
Every day.
Every day in Ncell. The whole idea is to go ahead and get as many customers as you can. I'm sure that's one part of the business strategy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For a customer to change, maybe a brand new customer, it can be a brand new customer, or it can be a customer who wants to switch.
Mm-hmm.
How and what is the thought process of Ncell to make a customer change his or her mind?
Yeah, that's just like asking them to change toothpaste almost, but it's a little bit easier. Firstly, they've already adopted the technology, no? Yeah, so today, fortunately, unfortunately, there's a 145% penetration, so almost 1.5 individuals have two SIMs.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they don't change, they just have two, because one works better here, the other one works better there, or this one works better for voice, or works better for data. So our focus is, yes, it used to be kind of land grab, go out there and grab new customers. There are not many new customers left today. So we go out there and retain customers as the first priority.
Mm-hmm.
The second priority is to drive a higher need for mobile data, not need and want in some ways. Today I find that mobile is a need in this country. I'll tell you what I meant. When I first came here in 2014, 15, and did my due diligence, walk around town and see how mobile penetration is. And if you take the same walk around Bangkok or Singapore, what I found different was when I was walking around here, I don't see people using the phone on the streets or at the bus stops or nothing. This is 2014, 15. Whereas in Singapore, the phone is like glued to their ear or hardwired to their ears. Yeah, no matter where they are. So that's kind of a want, it's not a need. Here is a need at that point. If I have to use it, I will use it only if I absolutely have to. Otherwise, I can wait. I can wait to get to my destination. I can wait to get home. I can wait. That person can wait for me to come back to him.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what is the change, and that's what I saw. And our first objective was to try and drive a higher need for mobility, so that it becomes one that mobile technology will help improve your quality of life. Obviously, the first step is to say it will help you do your business better. It will help you improve maybe your social life better for some, and so on. So you escalate them up that curve, essentially. So that's what our focus is today. So one is retaining customers. It's a lot cheaper than acquiring customers today. And secondly is driving a higher need for mobility. Yeah, but we are also cognizant of obviously affordability. Inflation has gone up 2 times in the last 12 months. And it's not just unique to this market, but the rest of the world. So there's always some pressure on the consumer wallet. You may not know, telecom spend in Nepal is about, I think if I'm not wrong, about 2.6% of GDP.
Yeah.
Whereas in most other markets in the world, including India, it's less than 1%.
The interesting thing is we were looking at a few things, and I've sent you something in the morning, X, if you can pull that up, and I definitely wanted to talk to that with Andy and just try to process it because, again, I don't come from this sphere, so I just want to process it. NTC to NTC is 1.5 rupees. Ncell to Ncell is 1.62. Difference is 0.12. That's something that we were looking at as well, you know. And again, we talked about inflation and things going up crazy. Are the prices gonna be the same? Get more expensive? Maybe come down? What's the future like?
Well, the future is always comes down. Prices never goes up for telecom services. Never. So the prices will come down over time. It's a function of how we package it, and the way we can do it is we try and bundle it rather than to be so what's the word? Singular about voice and say voice is 162 per minute. These days we all go into kind of a bundle. It doesn't really work out to be 162 per minute. Most people buy, I don't know any specific plans.
But packages.
Yeah, packages that works out to be far less than one rupee per minute.
We'll definitely talk. I definitely want to dig deeper into this about personalizing your cell phone, personalizing your service, because that's very important. And I'm sure some do it, and some just haven't figured it out yet. Which we'll definitely talk about it. Pull this up, and I just wanted to understand a perspective of. A little bit about what's happening in India. We're just looking at data plans in terms of XYZ plans of various companies in India, Andy, and we've come to realize that in Southeast Asia, we are one of the most expensive. Why is that? Just a basically straight up question.
Yeah.
Why are we so expensive in Nepal?
Easy. I mean, access to raw materials is very different from India, firstly. Secondly, the cost of doing business here. I shared that at the conference over the weekend. Perhaps it was a cheeky statement. I said, look, I don't know about your business, but in my business, for every $1 revenue, 43 cents goes to pay taxes, dues, fees, spectrum, licenses. Yeah, 42 cents. So I have 58% less left to cover all my operating costs and capital investments, which is very, very difficult. Bandwidth cost, for example, in Nepal is still about 350 per megabit. Per megabit. In the rest of the world, it's less than 50 cents.
That's because of our policies?
No, it's because it's a landlocked country. No, we are landlocked, and the only way to get out of Nepal is through India. And then India will carry it out to the rest of the world. So if you're in Singapore, it costs less than 25 cents per megabit compared to our 350.
So
that's a significant. It's the cost of things. Yeah, to build a tower in Nepal can cost us as much as $150,000, especially in the hills. In Malaysia, it's less than $40,000, $30,000.
Yeah. So again, one of our drawbacks is we are landlocked.
Yeah, there are many other factors, including almost 40% of our sites are off-grid. Off-grid means I don't have power. No power means I got to put a huge battery bank. I got to put generators. I got to put fuel. And how do you carry fuel up to some of these locations? Very challenging.
Keeps on adding up. Keeps on piling up.
It kind of adds up, and that's basically what it is. It's just the cost of delivering a service compared to some other country we are by far more expensive.
Are we going to get out of this in the foreseeable future? In general, I'm talking in general when it comes to telecommunications in Nepal. Just your expertise,
Well,
expertise.
in some areas, yes. Bandwidth cost, yes. When I first came here, it was more than $10. Now it's $3.50. But on the others, no. I mean, cost of fuel, cost of head load, cost of steel, to carry tons of steel up using human beings or donkeys. So that's no, that's not going to come down anytime soon.
We were looking it up, and we have a do we call it a station up in Everest, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken?
there is.
5,000 meters,
Yeah.
above 5,000 meters,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. Pull up a picture, X, if you have it. When did this happen? If you remember, a couple of years ago.
Oh no, it was built way before. I think it was built in 2015, 2016.
2015, 2016.
Yeah, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very fascinating.
And we have 5 more coming up. And
Oh yeah, where
Yeah.
are they coming up?
all along the trail up to the EBC.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that's a significant investment where we will get no return on investment. Huh?
It's a project that's going to be for. Oh,
That
there you
one,
go.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there you go. That's really nice. What do you think of projects when you see when you hear about or your team comes out with projects like these? You know, what's your mindset? How do you see it?
Oh,
the
no,
challenges and there are thousands of things that come to play.
Oh, no. I don't think of it as challenge at all. I think that's wonderful. Wonderful, actually. We would build this because it serves a very unique purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just like you don't expect a return on CSR activities, no. Yeah, but it serves the community. And it's something that is almost impossible if we didn't do it.
Yeah.
How else can you get comms up there in ABC? Seriously, I mean, other than using a satellite phone. Yeah, it's just impossible. I mean, can you imagine someone standing up there taking a picture and then boom, Instagram comes out? I think that is great, no?
Yeah, that's really, I know the feeling of being connected, and I also know the feeling of being disconnected. There are times where you really want your internet, and there are times when you can't get it, and you're like, all right, well, it is what it is. Let's jump into CSR, and then I want to come back to 2014 in a while. You spend a lot of money in CSR. That is something that I'm sure Ncell is very keen and very big on as well. Tell us a little bit about CSR projects that Ncell's done in the past few years that you've been head of it.
Sure. So, for us, especially in this market, it even means more to us. I think that's a need for us to play a role. I can't remember the actual numbers. We would have spent certainly somewhere between 1.6 to 2.0 billion in the last 4 or 5 years that we've been here. We are quite selective in terms of where we want to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at the United Nations SDG goals, there are about 8-9 pillars, but we focus basically on education and health and the environment. Yeah, because we feel that that's what this country needs the most. Yeah, environment. I mean, geez, every time I drive through Kathmandu and I look at the river, and I say, if we could clean up the river, this would be an awesome place. Seriously, awesome. 1, 2, education is an issue for sure. So we had, in the last 2 years, identified 60 schools, remote areas that have never seen a computer, and we installed a full, 25 computer lab. And I've been in one of those, and when you interact with the kids, they don't know what to do with the keyboard. They look at it and say, okay, I'll click the browser.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you just ask the question, what is the capital city of Russia? And all the information comes up. And, it's just amazing to see their reaction, I feel. So that's what gives us, I guess, extreme comfort that is working for people. We don't need a pat on the back, for all these things that we do, but I enjoy it when I see people are using what we've done.
Yeah.
Lainchaur Park is a great example. I don't know if you've seen it right in front of us. Wow, you go there at 5:30, it is full. From little kids doing karate sessions to couples walking around the park and full football and basketball and everything. It is full. Yeah. So, and it gives us a great feeling that we've done something great.
Pull up a picture of the Ncell building and pull up the the football ground as well. Pull that up. I want to show this to everybody, and I want people to understand that this is just one of the things that Ncell has done and is doing. How did this concept come to play, and just understand the impact that this has made from your perspective, and then we'll jump into other things as well. How did this come to play?
Well, when we moved to that building, there was this plot of land that was, obviously we see people playing out there, but it was a pile of dirt, essentially. And he just said, can we beautify for the ward, essentially, yeah. And I just know to get, obviously, the municipality to take action is going to be a real challenge now. So we said, if you would allow us to do it for you, we will do everything. We just need your approval to support us to make sure that we can build it. And we will run it for the next 2 years. We will maintain it because we know if we pass it, build and pass it over, things may not look so great over time. So we want to make sure that it's sustainable. It's like saying you don't catch fish for the village. You teach them how to catch fish.
Exactly.
So that they're sustainable. So, we, instead of using real grass, we use turf because we know the traffic that's going to come out there. And grass is just not going to cut it. Yeah, and it's also based on international standards. So I think that's basically how the concept came about. If we are operating in that environment, the park isn't great or whatever isn't great, and we see an opportunity to do it and change it, then that's part of our role, because people see Icon and they know Ncell is here. What have they done for me? That's where we work, but what they've done for us who live around here, and that's part of the reason why we picked that space. And I think it's a great example of what you can do for people.
I liked the initiative of the schools as well. I was reading about it, the 60 schools.
Yeah.
Loved it. Two things that I personally am a big believer in health, because you need to have a strong mental health and physical health as well to prosper as a nation. And we have a very young population as well. Yeah. Second one is education, because that is equally important as you move forward, as you grow. Let me phrase this way. When you have in the palm of your hands the world, you will gain knowledge. It can be, this is the one that I was talking about. In the palm of your hands, you will be gaining knowledge, and you will be utilizing it, like you mentioned, and complementing what you said earlier. And again, trying to stay fit and healthy mentally and physically is something very big for me as well. I personally, again, like we talked about earlier, 135, almost 45% have active, if I'm not mistaken on this, active SIM cards in Nepal. And data is something, I'm trying to jump into data. Data is something that's very important to me, personally. My phone's on 24/7, 4G is, I'll say 4G. 4G is on 24/7. Where I get information about updated 24/7. It's costly. I'll come back to, again, X amount it costs me per month to utilize the service that I get. Trying to have all the information in the palm of my hands in a split second. How do we make that accessible to every individual in Nepal in a span of X amount of years? Not just 4G, but maybe 5G, but in general, internet to people, accessible all across the country.
Yeah.
How can Ncell play a part in that in the foreseeable future? I'm not talking about now, maybe 10 years from now.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's always been our aspiration, to get access to data a lot more affordable. Now, as in all economics, there's always a curve, I guess.
Yeah.
Right now, if you look at our cost to serve for data, unfortunately, it's pretty challenging, actually. And part of the reason was I stated for every dollar, 42 cents gets paid to the government. And that's where we need to drive this. So we can drive bandwidth costs down to some extent, but bandwidth costs for our business, not the fixed line business, for our business only contributes something like 6-7% of total cost to serve. So our main cost is in the infrastructure of telecoms, right? Of mobile telecoms. Are we working to drive it down?
Yeah.
Yes, we are. If you look at the cost to serve, it's not quite at the level where you have said that is accessible to even a greater population. But if you look at 2016 to now 2022, the cost per gig or price per gig for the user has come to way down to about 30 cents, 34 cents per gig. It used to be $1.50 or $1.90 per gig, even more if I'm not wrong. So that's where we are now. That cost, that price to the end user at 30x cents per gig isn't enough to cover the cost for us to serve. Our cost to serve is closer to 45 cents to deliver that service. So that's the dilemma. Yeah, can we get that price down? We have a global objective as a group to get it down to 12 cents per gig on cost.
This is Axiata as a whole.
Yes. Now, that's a function of a few things. Yeah, there's a function of scale. There's a function of, obviously, data consumption at the right price. It's a bit like an airplane. If I sold 10 seats and you have to fly the aircraft, you never recover what's lost.
Yeah.
So for us, we have a huge network with hundreds of terabytes of data throughput a day. It's not utilized, or it's not utilized at the right price to cover the cost. So that's the challenge. But will we get to a lower than 34 cents per gig of price? I think we will.
Yeah.
But I think a few stakeholders need to play a game here. That means the government needs to support the industry to lower the cost of doing business. And we need to drive the economic development of the country through mobile telecom services. Because when you do that, the consumer wallet goes up, and it kind of is a whole cycle. So you need to lower costs a little bit here and drive consumption on the right side.
Before we jump into big players around the world coming to Nepal and doing business, and how is that handled now in 2022, not just in 2014, 2015. What I really want to understand is, Andy, from your perspective, when this morning, X, I sent you a video, I sent you a link of this Facebook link in the morning, and there was a video that I saw this morning. I'm sitting in Kathmandu. Again, I was born here, I was raised here, I'm sitting in Kathmandu. My life is a little bit different than friends somewhere in other parts of the nation, where I come from. And I was looking at a video and play this. Yeah, play this. This is in a place called Bajura, Andy. All right? This is how people probably travel every single day. We have so many other things that we have to deal with on a daily basis. The change that we were talking about earlier, it would be great if we could, go ahead and solve this problem, and then jump into all the other things that we have. I'm sure when I talk from the government's perspective as well, we still have this to go ahead and solve. Yes. Then we have so many other things along the line as well.
Yep.
We need to build roads. We need to build bridges. We have thousands of things to do, and then think of growing other parts of the economy, other parts of the whole ecosystem of a nation, right? There's so many different things that I'm sure the government's working on as well. When it comes to not just telecommunication, again, I'm emphasizing in this as well, the policies in general that you see here in Nepal, and compared to other places in Southeast Asia, what's your perspective on it? How can we head towards being prosperous in a short span of time?
That's a really tough question, really. You're right when we think about, when you ask me about Lainchaur Park, what was the idea? It's all great, but when you look at that example, you say, hang on.
Breaks my heart.
There are some more fundamental needs, of people. Yeah, and how can they be how can we be inclusive if their basic need is not even served? They can't go to school without getting drowned, sometimes, So
breaks my heart.
Yeah, sure. So it is tough, I feel the same from that point of view. I'm a champion for CSR for sure, but it's always about the core community. I would never do a CSR where I'll use a third party to say, okay, you go and do something. I said, no. For every dollar that I put in, I expect 99 cents to go into the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 cent can be somewhere else. It's okay, but that's how I see it. And I would like more companies to get involved in doing their little things. I think many are doing that, and we will continue to do that for sure. So, in terms of back to your question about policies, this is the task. I think government needs to prioritize, and I'm not sure how they're going to do this because they got so many things to do. The reason why we pick education and environment and health is because in countries that are trying to develop, usually those are the biggest problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, if people do not have the right education, nothing else can work. Literally, it doesn't matter. They won't care about the environment because they care about how I'm going to cross the river today to go to school.
Yeah.
You think they care about a Coke can by the side of the road? Doesn't matter. No. So all I'm saying is there's different levels of need.
Yeah.
And the basic needs are not met by a lot of folks, and we don't see that. So, when you show me this, when I look at the Lainchaur Park, you just ask me, I kind of feel a little bit like, it seems a bit,
No. This is
No, I know it's not meant to put me in a spot.
No.
But I'm saying is, I see that there is a problem, but I don't know what I can do to help that. By the way, we did support building one of those suspension bridges. That bridge, I think about 12,000.
Yeah.
A small village. I said we should build 1,000 of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1,000 so people can cross.
Yeah.
And not take 2 days to walk around the mountains to cross. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, we do things like telemedicine.
Mm-hmm.
People can't get to a clinic without walking 2-3 days for the remote areas.
Yeah.
So we have a project with a hospital.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware.
Yeah.
We're going to equip 32 outposts in the rural areas where they have real-time telemedicine, and that's connected straight to the central area with full scanning capability. Yeah. So this is what I said would help a little bit for communities that will never get access to
Small
certain
things.
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 And that's part of these sort of things that we need to look at. That's what I'm saying.
When it comes to coming back to the question, when it comes to policies to go ahead and make us prosper in X amount of years, we cannot put a number on, on development. There's never a number on development. How should the government be? What should be the government's thought process, just from your perspective, Andy? When it comes to telecommunications,
I say one is leadership. No, I mean if you say digital Nepal is going to drive the economy going forward, then you need to take the leadership and do what you say you want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's the first fundamental point. I think we had a discussion on Saturday to say, what are the impediments to achieving a digital Nepal vision? Yeah. I said the first thing is leadership. It's not technology. I can have access to 5G today. Sure, we can roll it up in 6 months. But I'm saying is there a use case? It's going to cost us X dollars to roll it out. We can't be, charging below cost to drive that. No, businesses have to recover their investment. Even if it's break even as a loss leader, it may be acceptable. But nonetheless, there has to be a business case. All I'm saying is it's nothing to do with cost. It's nothing to do with availability of technology. It's nothing to do with whether there's enough talent in this country. In the last 4 years, I've seen it. I think the tech talent and the digital talents have grown substantially, actually, if you ask me. I don't know if you know this, but I see Nepal is starting to export capabilities. So that's a great sign. So it's nothing to do with those. So what does it do with? One, leadership and prioritizing, the budgets in the right ways. No, what's important? You can address 1,000 things. Maybe you can address 10.
Yeah.
Make sure you do the 10.
And do it accurately.
Swiftly, do it right. And we are happy to be part of the program.
Mm-hmm.
We will be the first one to be part of a program. But the framework and the policies that support it needs to be transparently supported. And so we'll step up to it.
International companies, when Axiata decided to be a part of Nepal, of course there was already an European company here, if I'm not mistaken, and wanted to take over. How tough was that? Honestly, asking you straight up, how tough was being a part of a telecommunications company in Nepal at that time?
At the time, no, it wasn't tough at all. I think our aspirations were pretty clear. Said, well, we got Ncell, let's go make it work. We have a very strong optimism and aspiration to drive it further. So obviously you read about it in the last few years, some challenges that we go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think we don't let that stop us from doing what we have to do. Sure, there's some challenges, but yeah, it's a bit more than normal. But we just got to deal with it now. We have this great asset now. We just got to make it work as best as we can. That's basically how I see it. Yeah, I mean, there are some challenges, definitely, in terms of getting the right support to make things happen, to make sure that the same level playing field is in place. I think that all needs to be in place. And that's why I said leadership, transparency, frameworks and policies needs to be applied consistently. I think Ncell is a great example of how governments should operate to make sure that if you truly want to drive development, FDI has a significant role in that space. Because the Nepal alone may not be able to achieve it. You need foreign partners, you need foreign investment, and usually it comes with that. All developing countries go through that stage. Yeah, first they struggle on their own, then they have the right frameworks in place and the right environment, and then foreign investment comes in, and then over time, the local environment gets developed because the talent all grows with it, education levels improve, access improves, affordability improves, economic stability improves. So that's important parameter for us, and I think Nepal should use that as a great marketing tool in some ways. See how
give us an example. Give us a few examples.
Well, example is this, right? If they can develop the telecom industry, which is usually a fairly capex intensive industry, and when I talk about FDI, I'm referring to capex or capex intensive type industry to support the government's aspiration. That's what's needed. Really, it's not those the smaller FMCG type businesses that's not going to move the needle in terms of driving employment, driving economic growth. So if you can demonstrate to the world that Nepal has a very robust environment for foreign investment, you can put in billions of dollars here, and you can be sure that your returns, you will be able to take it, and do what you wish, as most companies would expect. I think that would be a great message out there, to encourage FDIs.
When I was growing up, constantly, there's one term that I constantly heard, right? This is, I'll say it in Nepali and then I'll say it in English as well. Nepal Switzerland jasto banna sakcha. That is, Nepal can be Switzerland.
Right.
It is something, because it's beautiful, amazing. Our landscape is, I'm sure I haven't been to Switzerland. Have you? You've been there. So, our landscape is slightly similar?
Yeah. Above 5,000. So there's snow on the Alps.
Right? That's the term that I'm sure you've been hearing too, X, right? And, every time I go to a Western country, and then where a Western country has, mountains and hills. For example, if I'm in a place like Colorado and I look at it, it's exactly like where I'm from. But there are certain amenities, certain things in that place which probably we don't have. Maybe we might not have X, Y, Z things. But the landscape's the thing. It's the same thing. Then it makes me wonder, reaching to that potential, reaching to the providing all the basic needs of providing X, Y, Z to everybody, that's very big in my books as well, Again, like what you just said, and complementing what you just said, when international companies look at us, the viewpoint, what is the viewpoint now in 2022? What's the viewpoint now? And what should be the viewpoint if it needs to be changed?
Yeah, the viewpoint, obviously, from my own personal experience and engagement with different parties, whether it's embassy folks or large companies, is there is definitely a significant concern on sovereign risk in doing business here. Yeah, in other words, the entire stability of Nepal as a country, as a government, is a concern because policies change. Now,
Overnight?
Well, it changed frequent enough to be a concern. When you throw in $1 billion of investment, this is going to be a long term. No, it's not like in 2 years you can recover your investment and make things happen. Yeah, so I think the longevity of stability is not there, and that's the biggest point. So in my engagement with CEOs of other companies, even with certain embassies, we do talk to them and they do talk to us to try and understand how FDI is working for us and so on. They kind of share the same sentiment. Yeah, before we can recommend to our country companies who want to invest here, we also need to understand what are we going through, and if things are a little bit more stable 4 years ago, and how do I see it going forward, and so on and so forth. So that's basically it. I think the single word is sovereign risk, and that links to stability of the government, because we know government changes here quite frequently. In the past, certainly, last few years have been a bit more stable. Going forward, I think is wait to see. So that's those uncertainties. That's basically it. Apart from that, skill set, I don't think that's the concern. They can always import skill sets out in here. Policy frameworks can be transparent. I think most of it are there, but they're not executed in the absolute sense, in the absolute legal manner. So you may not get the transparency, but the policies are in place.
It's just a matter of time.
Well, I think it's more than time, no? I think it's a conviction of the leadership to want to do it. That's why I keep saying that, it's if you want to make change, it doesn't matter whether you have time or not, or whether you can afford to do it, you will make the change. Yeah, and you need to have conviction to make the change. That's basically it.
You've stayed extensively in Australia, that's and then of course Singapore as well.
Yeah,
Malaysia being your home country. Australia, similar population, of course, bigger landmass, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Singapore.
Yes.
I could definitely go ahead and take names of leaders in Singapore who've practically transformed the country to what it is today. Australia, I'm sure, very similar. Living in Australia or Singapore or Malaysia, and then living here, the changes that, again, I still want to stay in this topic and understand a bit of your perspective on this. Seeing the changes that those countries made in their policies, in the way of their governance, in the way of their leadership. Here in Nepal, what is the best way out, Andy?
That's a very difficult question also. I guess a single factor is the stability of the government. There's no systematic way. It's like, okay, each term is 4 years. There's no debate during that time, or 4 or 5 years, whatever that is. And that should remain the case. And there should be a systematic process of, a new government coming into play and so on. That's the first step. That hasn't really quite happened in this country, The second step is, if you look at the budgets that we have, if I'm not wrong, I read that we have only spent something like 23% of last year's budget. And we got like 3 weeks to go to year end, so what do you do with it? You can't run a government a country in that way, You have to prioritize the things you want to do and make sure that, whatever you do is, serve either, it will serve the economy, it will serve the country, it will, more importantly, serve the people. There are a few things that is missing in this country, and that is education and just access to some basic stuff. I think that needs to be in place first, and the government should have absolute conviction to drive that very stably and consistently. Yeah, so I don't think it's any different from Australia. The government changes every 4 years, 5 years. Singapore is a different story. It's, I don't know, it is what it is, but it's a small country, so
it's pretty different. The race for I was telling you off air. I was in Thailand recently, and then I landed, and I had no idea that 5G had arrived, in Bangkok. And then my phone says 5G, and I got all excited. I was like, I've never tasted, I haven't tasted the experience of 5G.
Was that a Ncell SIM card roaming, or is it a local SIM?
No, I had to take a local SIM because I had to make tons of phone calls. I was diving there and I was doing tons of things, but 5G, and then I was like, oh. Times have changed here. Things are different now. The world's because I hadn't traveled for X amount of years due to COVID, which we'll get into, and then I was like, wow. And I fly to a small island later after Bangkok, and I go back to 4G, and then I was like, okay, so now I know the difference between 5G and 4G. So
Really?
I tasted the difference of, I tasted 5G for a few days, and then I tasted 4G, and then came back and tasted 5G again. And I kind of want to stay in the 5G sphere. Back in the day when we rolled out 4G, I believe it was the other player who came out with 4G before Ncell, if I'm not mistaken, back in the day.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen with 5G, Andy?
Well, truth be told, was our 4G network was totally ready,
Yeah.
but we didn't get approval to roll it out.
At that time?
Yeah, so that was the issue. So for 5G, I'm embarrassed to keep saying this again. We're still waiting for a 5G trial spectrum. We're working with MOCIT to get access to that.
Let's explain it in terms of a very normal listener understanding what that is.
Okay, so for an operator to operate 5G services, you need to get spectrum. To get spectrum, those frequency spectrum, you need to get approvals from the regulator. In this country, is NTA/MOCIT, who would then endorse that those spectrum to be awarded to an operator. Now NTC has it. They have been given that, and we're still waiting for over 12 months.
Are we ready to roll out 5G if that's given?
Yes, we are. In any case, the 5G that they will give is based on a trial concept. So they'll give it to you, trial spectrum. You can roll it out for 12 months on a free basis to consumers, not nationwide, but selected.
Let's say Kathmandu or Lalitpur.
Just to test a few areas. And then from that basis, then they would finalize how the spectrum would be awarded and how we would then operate 5G.
Are we going to be getting 5G anytime soon? And also adding to that, does our neighbors have 5G? India has 5G or China has 5G?
Just China, yes. I think the largest
5G?
5G market will be in Korea and China.
Korea and China?
Yeah, absolutely.
In Korea and China?
Yeah. Malaysia, where we operate in some of our markets, is also on a trial basis. Yeah, just 1 or 2 sites to trial it. No commercial 5G service as yet. Yeah.
When are we going to have it, Andy?
So assume it would be like T plus 6 months, no? From the time our regulator said, here, Mr. Ncell, this is your 5G trial spectrum. In 6 months, we'll pop out a few sites.
Yeah, we're going to be excited. It's so fast. Oh my God, it's so fast.
Oh yeah, obviously it's blazingly fast.
Whoa.
Having said that, I'm surprised to say you experienced a difference.
So I'm going to be very honest with you. I was in Bangkok, and then I went to Koh Samui.
Yeah.
4G, back to 4G as soon as we land in the island, and then I could, when you press something on 5G, it's there,
pops up. Huh?
It's automatically there. I can't explain it. It's right there, and with 4G, of course.
Excellent. Yeah. So the fundamental difference, apart from speed, is the latency. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The latency. So. Exactly what we said. When you press it, it pops out immediately. There's no need to handshake for 50 milliseconds for each byte we reconstructed before it appears on your phone. But anyway, whether you have 5G or 4G, your YouTube experience should be the same. Technically, it might take you a split second to pop up faster, but then whether you're watching 720 or 1080p, it should be the same on 4G and 5G.
I don't know. For some reason, maybe it was the human psychology that I had. As soon as I saw 5G on my phone, I was like, "Wow, this is going to be faster."
That's a good point. Perhaps we can control the phone and display 5G instead. No, just kidding. Yeah.
Broadband services. Um, everybody has internet. Everybody has Wi-Fi at home. Wi-Fi here running right now. We're watching it right now as well. Ncell plans to expand into homes, going deeper into penetrating and being in lives of everybody, not just in cell phones.
Well, absolutely. I think
What's the future like?
that's a great question. No, in the past, the fixed network operators do that, or be on copper and on fiber. And we see that there's no technology and old school. And then mobile came. And for someone to get a fixed internet, internet connection is instant on mobile, but not on fixed. You wait 6 months. Now, this market is quite different, entirely different from almost all markets that I've been. To get a fixed connection is almost instant today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So mobile becomes secondary because the cost of mobile and fixed is very different. It's still about 4x delta, 4x cheaper on the fixed. So obviously we have an aspiration to be part of that growth market. I think the pandemic highlighted where the growth was.
Yeah.
Not in mobile, it was in fixed. And the way we see it is, well, there's obviously a couple of paths we can take. One is we have already rolled out fixed wireless access. Now, obviously, if you talk about Kathmandu as an example, Kathmandu is purely saturated and well served by the fixed players. So we kind of come from outside in, the areas where, folks cannot get access to Worldlinks or the Vianets of this world. We will offer them a box with a SIM in it, but a fixed wireless connection. It's instant. So we do have those, and we have like 60,000 homes with that device today. We will continue to drive that part of the service. But over time, we're now kind of finalizing our plan to do a fiber to the home. We can do that, obviously.
Is it buying into an ISP or starting your own?
I mean, obviously, organic is one of the options. Starting our own takes a bit longer.
Yeah.
That's about it. And it's a saturated market. Let's say there are 5 players today. If we're going to start our own, there'll be 6 players. What do you think will happen to competition? It will only drive prices down.
Exactly.
Yeah, for us to capture market share. So, not the best, necessarily the best approach. Right now, there are about 2 million homes connected. 2 million homes, but more than 8 million users. No, each home connection has the neighbors also part of the deal. So,
Well, if you roll this out in the foreseeable future, what's it going to be called?
don't know. It might be Ncell home.
Ncell Connect Home.
Yeah.
Ncell.
Ncell broadband.
There you go. We figured that out. Thank you very much, Andy. Now we know.
We'll get you input for marketing.
All right. The big question that you just shared with us, that more players, more better for the consumer at the end of the day. Going back to our neighbor on one side, has tons of players. There are tons of people, tons of companies. At the end of the day, you get SIM cards with unlimited data, unlimited voice. God knows. Whenever I go to India and I look at the promotion materials, in blue and red and yellow, and I look at it and I get confused. I get, oh my God, I'm getting so many things for free here. Later I come to realize that everything is it's going to cost me the same.
Yes, you're right. You didn't read the fine print, did you?
When we did the math, and I was just going through and doing the math, I was like, okay, well, probably I'm getting almost the same thing at the end of the day. But there are going to be players down the road. What's your take on having other major players in Nepal?
Yeah, that has always obviously on our radar, from a strategic preparedness perspective. Well, there's a couple of things that working in our favor in some ways, not just ours, but the existing mobile operators' favor. One is, it is a saturated market. 2, to build a new network is going to be difficult because this is the physical network. You know what I mean? So you got to pull up towers, do the whole lot, and blah, blah, blah. And that will take time. Now, I guess you could ask a simple question. Yes, everyone says Jio is a classic example of how you can just destroy markets and become the winner in that market. If that was true, the likes of Telefonica, Vodafone would have done that in many other markets. Now, that's not possible. We know that. Yeah, so Jio is in a very unique position, not just because of uh, um, what they have done in terms of their proposition, but far more than that. Obviously, the shareholder Jio has a much higher capacity um, to secure access to all sorts of things to enable his business to progress. Now, Jio Mobile is only a means to an end, in my opinion,
Could you elaborate on that?
which means that's not their game plan. Their game plan isn't to have 500 million mobile users. Their game plan was they're building this stack from the likes of mobile as a basic first level, all through to home broadband and content and the rest, including e-commerce. So they want to dominate the entire value chain of consumer. Now, that's a great proposition. And it can work if you have what's the word? An incredible amount of appetite for investment. No? They spent 25, I don't know what the number is, but something astronomical, 25 billion before they made the first dollar. How many shareholders would do that, I'm saying? So anyway, back to here. In this market, for a third player to come in and say behave like a Joe, offer everything free and try and get customers, I mean, the first thing it would do is just basically destroy the size of the market. If the pie today is currently about 78 billion,
Yeah.
if you come in as a Joe, that entire 78 billion is just going to collapse to a large extent. So now you need to make the equation work now. Whatever it collapses to, and based on the investment that you're going to make, is anybody going to get a return over time? And whether you can command what the likes of Jio does, because you need to overlay more services on top, because if you don't, you never make money out of that mobile business. That's just my simplistic view. I still maintain that that's a good view. So yes, we are always concerned about third player coming in, but we know there are some hurdles that needs to be crossed before that becomes a real threat.
Like you just said earlier, more the merrier for the consumer at the end, because they'll be getting affordable rates. How much do you believe in that now?
I definitely do believe in that. And the only person that will gain are the consumers at the end of the day. It comes into a cycle of sorts. Now, when before Joe came in, there were like 6 players or whatever. Now there's only 2. Pretty much, Joe and Airtel. Yeah. And is that necessarily good? Don't know. I think 2 players can serve the market in a very consumer-friendly manner. Definitely. 3 would be definitely reasonable in a market like India. In this market, I think there will be some challenges. It's not a small market in terms of size of consumers. It's only a small market in terms of the volume of business. Malaysia is the same population, but it's about 6 billion US market on mobile services alone.
And ours? Give or
Ours only
take?
1. Now is 800 million.
What really happened in COVID, Andy?
For us,
Everybody was using the internet. Everybody understood the value of internet. That much I'll say. A lot of people got educated on the benefits of using the internet for connectivity.
yeah.
But when I read about it, it's not really great for service providers.
No, it's great for the fixed service providers, definitely. Now, and that's the thing. I think most consumer would think in general that the likes of Ncell and NTC must have done well during COVID. The reality is not.
Exactly. I was reading about it, and
Yeah.
I was amazed too. Could you tell everybody a little bit about COVID?
Yeah, absolutely not. So when COVID happened, I think about 2 million people kind of left the cities. And where do they go to? They go back home. And at home, when they don't have a job, they're not going to subscribe to mobile services, so they use fixed services. And that exploded, really. If you look at the take-up of fixed services in the last 2.5 years, you see a steep growth. So that's the challenge for us at that point. Yeah, our business the whole market was about 1 billion before COVID. Post-COVID today, it's only sitting at about 760 million. So it's wiped out quite a significant chunk of that business. Yeah. And data is obviously the biggest impairment for us. Data. So consumer wants data, but they want it as cheap as a fixed play, you know, so which becomes a real challenge for us to serve. But during COVID, we obviously had to keep customers connected. We had to. So it's a loss leader for us from that point of view. Yeah, we were giving away services to the tune of about 9 billion in service value,
Yeah.
of which about 60% was consumed. Yeah, because if we don't, we lose them. And to get them back, it's going to cost us a lot more. Or we might not even get them back. So that was the price that we had to pay to let them be connected to us still. So when things recover, we have a chance to at least talk to them and get them to some normalcy over time.
And definitely you provided lots of services. I used the Sapati too at one point. You increased the
Yes.
Sapati rate as well. People could definitely get more loans, I believe.
Yeah.
During COVID time, it was 80 rupees. Or
That's correct.
You'd increased that. And that was really nice. That was a fantastic gesture for everybody. Because it was very trying times for everybody, for the whole nation.
Oh,
And
for sure. I mean, well, firstly, people can't get it. Firstly, they have no job. They lost their job. Secondly, they can't get access to a point of sale because everything is shut down. Shops are closed. So they can't get access to top-ups. So we have to give them services, no? For a very, very small token, or a friend can give them services and we top it up just so that you can stay connected for a week. And if you run out again, we'll do something to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do a lot of that in 2020, some of it in 2021,
Yeah.
and far less in 2022 now. We don't do much of that. We're trying to move the whole state of economy.
Get out of the COVID
Yeah,
zone.
exactly.
Thanks for your time. I have tons of things that I still want to talk to you. And again, I want to thank you in between again for taking out time and giving it to us and all my listeners. Before we come back again, I wanted to ask you about this. My personal, again, I'm very interested in space and I'm very interested in tons of things. I was reading up on Starlink, the Elon Musk project of providing internet globally via satellites. Even Amazon's Jeff Bezos has come out with, what's it called again? Figure out what Amazon's doing. Is that the future, Andy? Is that the future? Is that one of the ways that people in remote areas, at least for now, can get internet across the world?
It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know, I used to work for a satellite company with the same aspiration back in 2000.
Oh, what was it called?
It's called ICO.
It's called
ICO, yeah?
ICO,
No,
ICO.
You know of Inmarsat, correct? That's an old
Yeah.
brick and mortar
Yeah.
satellite. Then came three players back in 1998. And that was Iridium, you must have heard.
Yeah,
Global Star,
that one I don't know.
okay, and ICO. So these three came into play. And they all have a slightly different constellation. One is low Earth, one is middle Earth, one is high Earth orbit. I was working for ICO for 2 years.
Interesting.
And the plans were grand, but the issue is the following. Sorry, it's a bit lengthy to explain why, because you explained what you just asked me. When the concept of ICO, Iridium, and Global Star came up, it was on the drawing boards about 6 years before that, 1995, 93. At that point, GSM terrestrial coverage was not where it is today. So it was still very patchy. So the satellite player said, look, I can come out, create a GSM compatible satellite and complement it when you roam on these networks.
Yeah.
By the time we put the first satellite Earth station and put the first satellite in space.
When was this? Around 2001.
Yeah,
Okay.
1998,
Okay.
99. The entire world has changed, and we realize that the GSM penetration has gone far more than what it was at the time of drawing board.
Back in 1992, 1993.
Early then, you would agree for sure, right? And then within 2 or 3 years, ICO literally went from a $5 billion company to nothing. We spent all the money paying for spectrum, doing trial satellites, and who bought it? I think Craig McCall bought us for a few $100 million. So, okay. Now back to your point. Do I believe satellite coverage will be the solution for us going forward? The answer is not so straightforward. There's still significant hurdles to cross in terms of how do you ensure interoperability between the terrestrial network and whatever satellite network that Starlink has planned for, or Google Balloons has planned for, and so
Oh
on and
yeah,
so
even
forth.
we also have that. I
Yeah,
completely
Google
forgot about
Balloon,
Google Balloons. Yeah.
Concept is great. Yeah, concept is excellent, and it's probably a lower cost to do so than compared to what it was planned back during my days in satellite. So it is possible, but there's still a lot of hurdles, and the jury's still out, I guess. That's basically what I can say.
Time's gonna tell us. But
Yes.
I'm always excited about the future, because it's so fascinating.
Yeah.
In 2000, I didn't know that we could go ahead and do this and talk to people and broadcast and just in the palm of my hands have everything.
Amazing, isn't it?
So fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's gonna happen in another 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? Hopefully,
Definitely.
we're gonna be chilling out, having margaritas, hopefully.
I mean, it's terrifying what people are willing to pay for phones. Obviously, it's part of very integral part of everybody's life. Yeah, but I'm just amazing how much people are willing to pay for phones every 2 years. I'm in the industry. I'm terrified of buying a new phone. Seriously,
I can't even think about
I have access to the technology being in the industry.
Yeah.
But I mean, these things cost as much as a great amplifier or things that we used to think for 6 months before we buy.
Yeah.
Today it's just like a 5-minute deal. Let's go buy a new phone and done.
Every
Amazing.
year. Hey, Andy, I'm going to ask you this, and because you're in this technology, like what you just said, in 1992, figured out that we're going to do this in 1996,
Yeah.
1999, right?
Yeah,
It was in the drawing boards, but by 1999, things were different.
Yep.
Do you think we have the technology? Okay, let me reframe that. The major players in let's say cell phone, the major players in the world, I could name 2, 3, Do you think they already have the technology, but they're just not going to roll out because of various factors?
The technology for
Maybe we have a phone with a camera which can zoom to the moon already. It's already around, but they're not going to roll it out.
Yeah, I mean, it is possible, really. I mean, definitely. But I don't know what's the use for that or whether there's economic feasibility to roll it out on an economic scale. Don't know. But they certainly have technologies ahead of what we need. Definitely.
Now,
I don't know how many features are you on this thing.
Yeah.
Other than clicking a camera and making a call
Yeah.
or typing a text message. That's it, no?
Yeah.
Pretty
yeah.
much.
Yeah. Now, we're gonna jump. We're gonna jump into that. Yeah. What's the? Yeah. That's a that's a good one. What's the key to success according to you, Andy? What's the key to success?
I think it's just do what you love doing. It doesn't have to be anything out of the extraordinary. I don't pursue careers per se, but I just want to do what I love doing. I came here by chance. And I came back because I said I love what I do. And interestingly, when I spoke to my CEO who employed me, I said, look, I'm not looking for a career, but whatever I do, I need your support.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm not looking to be so-and-so thereafter, blah, blah, blah. So that's what it is. And people talk about passion and so on, I can't say I have a particular passion in any specific things, but whatever I do, I kind of do it with the best of my ability.
To a young person who's listening at the moment, or to an entrepreneur who's just started his business, to somebody who is looking for, a certain type of leadership quality in them to leading their team. There are 3 different questions that I just asked in one sentence. What do you like to go ahead and let's start off by what do you like to go ahead and say to a young person who is listening to us right now and who wants to start a career in any field? What would you like to say to him or her?
Yeah, okay, no, I'm going to draw a bit on my experience. No,
Yeah, of course.
Interestingly, the advice that I gave my kids were the following. I'm a corporate person. So when they decided, and obviously we discussed before, I went to university to do what I want to do, I said, you have to do something that is a skill. I don't know if you know what I'm saying. It's a skill, but not like marketing or, investment, business, economics. No, a skill. That's the reason why one ended up as a dentist. It's a skill, and the other one as a lawyer. That means basically I said you don't have to be part of the corporate crazy corporate environment if you don't want to. So you can be on your own and do what you love doing at your own pace. That's why I said pick something that's a skill. A doctor, dentist, lawyer, carpenter, whatever is a skill.
Yeah.
So my advice to someone who's starting out a career is you got to pick what you want to do first, because I'll tell you another example which I can concretely qualify that. Actually, when my son decided what he wanted to do at university, we had a debate.
Yeah.
He said, no, I want to do investment banking. I said, are you sure, son? Because we obviously know who he is. After 18 years with him, we kind of know where your biases are. He said, yeah, I think investment bankers are great, they make a lot of money and blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. He was actually accepted into a med school.
Mm-hmm.
He gave it up and do investment banking. I said, fine, go ahead. And guess what? 6 months down the line, he said he really hated it.
Didn't like it at all.
Yeah, he didn't like it. He did well in the exams. He said, so what are my options then? I said, well, let me find out if the place that you gave away is still available. And we call university and said, no, sorry, we've given it up. I said, well, you lost that.
Yeah.
So now what? He said, okay, I'll reapply then to do either med school or dental school.
Mm-hmm.
And he applied, and he was fortunate enough to get back into dental school. And he never looked back thereafter. Now, the point, what's important in this point was, he thought doing something that will make him successful
Mm-hmm.
was what he should pursue, rather than what he think he should enjoy, and then hopefully one day become successful. I think that's a really important philosophy for me. Extremely. Yeah, sure. I think I might do really well if I go and become, investment banker. At that time, you
Yeah.
cut a deal 100 million, you get 5 million bonuses. They were getting big bonuses back then, 10 years ago. So it's different. For me, I was an engineer. I love what I did, and over time it evolved. Obviously, I got out of the space, but it's because each time is because I love doing that particular piece of something.
Yeah.
And that's how it worked for me. So that's my advice to someone when they think about a career. Please don't be driven by what they think will get them successful. It has to be, firstly, whether you have the tenacity, or I use the word passion a bit loosely, that you will be willing to do this for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
If you say yes, then that might be the best thing you should take.
Beautiful. And you just said that you're an engineer. Of course, you went to the business school later, and then again,
Absolutely.
London, and you did the whole thing. And now, again, I'm talking about 2022, CEO, MD, the leadership qualities that a person needs. And of course, when you were in your 20s or in your 30s,
Yeah.
you're developing that.
Yeah.
I'm sure till today, there might be new things that comes in your plate every single day. Learning never stops. That's what they say.
Yeah.
But experience is a big thing as well. To a young person who is starting off their business, maybe it be a startup, or maybe they're trying to get up the ladder in the corporate structure, what would you like to say to them?
Yeah, firstly, you need to lead from the front. Secondly, you don't need a title to lead people. You don't, absolutely not. And thirdly, I think as a leader, I think you need to demonstrate a few fundamental skills or disposition. One is humility. Two is a great listener. That's me speaking. There's many other traits that's important, but for me, is that humility, a great listener, and someone who operates with empathy. That's basically what drives me, actually. And I think that's a really important attribute, because leaders need to be trusted. I think that's the first fundamental requirement. Obviously, skill sets are required. You need to know the stuff that you are driving and so on and so forth. That's a given. Those are hygiene factors, no?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I once read something about Warren Buffett. He said, when I employ my CEO, there are three things I look for. One is skill, intellectual capacity. Two is dynamism, that means a really high energy and dynamic. And thirdly is integrity. If he hasn't got integrity, he says, I will never employ him.
Yeah.
No matter how great he is. Yeah, because there's repercussions. Can you imagine someone who is highly dynamic, highly skilled, and highly intellectual, but no integrity? He will kill your company. He will destroy your company. He will steal everything from you. Someone with integrity, you know you can trust him. You know you can sleep at night. and the rest he can pick it up along the way.
Definitely.
I think that's really important.
How is it in Nepal?
In Nepal, I think most people, like as I said, I work with,
Yeah.
they have humility, and I see a lot of empathy also. I think, and I see from my colleagues, because I know they don't like conflicts. Yeah, that's just the culture. They tend to be more gentle in approach. Yeah, that's why I said there's humility and there's empathy. Very obvious. It's second nature, I guess. So that's what I see. Yeah.
Sense of professionalism?
Definitely. I mean, there are some definitely. Yeah, you always get all sorts of people in a country, But obviously, a lot that I work with, definitely there's a strong sense of professionalism, and I like to think Ncell has quite a large set of folks that are highly professional. I think we probably have got the most professional set of 540 employees.
Yeah. And another, let's say, add another 1 lakh people in, let's say, contracts basis. Ncell's a big company when you think about it, isn't it?
Yeah, we have 1,300 staff on outsource. They still work with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Directly, indirectly, more than a lakh people.
Definitely.
100,000 people
Yeah.
are employed. Directly, indirectly, that's what...
All the
what-
channels that we work with,
yeah.
60, 70,000 channels, distributors, foot on the street, and all those folks there, we work with them close. Or at least they carry the Ncell brand, and we need to make sure that, that's not compromised. No.
I want to talk about branding, but before that, and staying on the same topic, should I just increase, lower it?
No, it's fine.
You happy?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Running an organization which more than $1 billion organization, and then running a nation. I'm not gonna try to compare, but coming back to the conversation we were having a while back, key points, key factors that you think are important to make significant changes in the system that we have. Of course, like you said, top down. And one thing that you said, which I'm definitely gonna use, is you need to be in the front line as a leader. What other changes should the policymakers make? Again, I'm asking you not just in terms of telecom, in general.
In general, yeah. I mean, being here for the last 5 years, the conviction of people who can make a change in this country is not consistent. So, I guess therefore, by default, I would say, I think it's clear what those commitments and aspirations are for everybody, and I think the main stakeholders, which is the government as a leader, should be able to drive this consistently. That's all it is, really. That's the only change I see. Otherwise we see a lot of knee-jerk reactions, and depending on what's happening, things change. That's a real problem, right? Because if you don't have a consistent runway to do something, you never be able to get it done, or you won't even start, because hang on, if I want to do this, I better be sure my runway is long enough to take off now. If not, why would I even start the plane and, go down the runway? That's basically what it is. So, and that consistency needs to be far longer than 12 months.
Yeah.
Far longer. So that's the first change that needs to happen. If we believe education is important for everybody, then the government should say, the largest part of our budget should be to drive education, for example. I know they've got 1,000 things to do, for sure.
Yeah.
So whatever that means when I said the largest part is, okay, you put priority and make sure that actually happens. Actually happens and gets down to the student out in the far west or something, So I think that's what needs to happen.
Good. I'm sure a lot of people are listening on this. Now, the other thing that is major for me is, and again for you as well, I'm sure, tourism. That is something that we are good at. We have solid knowledge about it, and we have culturally and physically we have Our country is blessed. But I'd like to go ahead and put it that way. How can we attract more? Because I'm going to come to the word called branding. Branding, the way Ncell's branded. I'm sure. I don't know if you're here or not, but overnight, I'll never forget this. Again, like it was all red, at one point, and then I wake up the next day.
Purple.
Andy, the whole city was purple. I'm sure other places around the country too, but the whole thing, overnight, I don't know how it was done, but it was done.
Right.
And I was like, I still give examples of that day because it was done. It
That must
happened.
have been in late 2008 or something.
I find out when
I can't remember,
Telecom took over. But again, that's those are things that people remember.
Yeah, definitely.
Another company dealt with it. Now Axiata is here. Of course, fantastic things have happened. Branding is something that Ncell's got it 5 stars. Could you share that knowledge to everybody? And again, I'd like to emphasize on tourism in a while.
Yeah. Sure. The change from pre-Axiata and new Axiata is only the prism, really. Branding, yeah. So, branding is obviously important for us, or for any business in the consumer space, especially in the consumer space. And it kind of conveys consistency, it conveys comfort and assurance. That's usually the key factors of branding. For us, for Ncell, we had invested substantially, even during Sonera days, Telia days, and even now. We have changed the mode of investment slightly differently since the pandemic. I don't know if you noticed. Yeah. So brand equity, we always pride ourselves on that. I think we still are number one, certainly within the telco space, but not number one within the full consumer space. I think there was a consumer brand that could be just as good. The focus for us going forward, certainly for me, and I'm a brand guy too, actually. So when I first joined Axiata,
I remember.
Axiata, back in 2008, I was brought in to rebrand TMI. That was what it was called, to Axiata with the Prism. So we went through the whole phase of doing that. And I said the focus is slightly different, not because branding isn't important. It is important, but my proposition is that, brand is really not about what we tell somebody it is. It is what they tell us we are. And I think we need to keep that in mind every time we do branding. So for me, it links back a bit to humility also, to some large extent, how you do branding. I think that's far more powerful than being brash and arrogant about it. Obviously the brand needs to be tied in with what you are fulfilling as well. So if someone wants to go out there and do something and have a brand to lead, you better be sure what you're delivering is going to support what your brand means to somebody. And that's really what it is about. You got to do both things right. Think about the following, I guess. If I ask you how somebody brands you, it is what we talk about you, Sanjay, when you are not in the room, no? Right? So that's your true brand status, correct?
Yeah.
Anyway, people love you. So you are here, but even though you're not here, I think people love you. So that's your brand. That's great. And I think that's a testament to what a great brand is. So for us, we never dropped that. We have changed a little bit from the modes of branding that we do. Brand building or thematic. It's mostly digital driven to a large extent. It used to be more brick and mortar. You see a lot more ATL in the past, a lot less today. And that's only because of how consumers consume brands.
I'll just touch bases on branding Nepal. for understanding your perspective on it. Of course, 2 years of COVID devastated the tourism industry. No shadow of a doubt on that. Now it's reviving. It's coming back. We talk about inflation. We talk about getting the dollars in.
Yeah.
That is a big part of our economy. How do we brand? Any expert advice that you have on branding Nepal as a whole, branding Nepal to the outside world, along with Ncell's part maybe on playing on tourism and getting the tourism industry, just getting more tourists back home?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely want to be, to your second point, we
Yeah.
definitely want to be part of that equation. And because tourism is really a part of our business in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So, we would encourage tourism, we will drive tourism where possible, and then we can, grow our business. We do play a role in terms of driving tourism, even during COVID times. I think we sponsor quite a few things with the intent to drive tourism. Say, certainly one of the events was in Pokhara. We drove an event with the Barakari Golf, and that was purely working with the mayor of Pokhara to drive tourism, even during COVID times in there. And then we did one recently in the Biratnagar, same thing, but it's more community driven, business and enterprise driven.
Yeah.
Again, just to drive, more activity out there, post-COVID type thing. So we will play a role in that for sure.
Adding to this, maybe a cross promotion with other Axiata partners in other parts of Southeast Asia. Maybe if we could do that down the road. In tourism sense, maybe friends from Bangladesh could come over and join us. So maybe friends from Cambodia, Indonesia, India, maybe just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly possible. And in fact, part of the value, not that it's going to be a huge success, for the following reasons. Obviously, those tourists that comes to Nepal are mostly from the European side, and obviously India for obvious reasons, but certainly from the European side or the northern territories. So in our markets, we also pride ourselves on that Prism is a connector for all the markets we operate in.
Yeah.
That's the value of the brand for the Prism. That's it. So when someone sees the Prism, it's like when someone sees the Apple symbol, you have comfort, or you see a McDonald's signs on the street, you have comfort that that burger is going to taste the same that I got in Chicago or something. So it's the same effort or same purpose for us. So we will do that where it makes sense. In fact, we do, digressing a little bit, we do partner with some of these countries where there's a huge workforce from Bangladesh that goes abroad, Sri Lankans that goes abroad, Indonesians that goes abroad, and Nepali that go abroad. We have some migrant programs that we work together jointly as well as a group.
Yeah.
So we do recognize that. So back to branding for tourism, apart from us playing a role in terms of doing our part where we can support, but with more meaningful, not so much about tourism per se, because that's not one of our pillars of support, but it's part of encouraging economic development, let's say, and getting to the enterprise is definitely part of our core value. You need to drive a pretty hard campaign. I recall when Malaysia came out with their Truly Asia campaign 15, 20 years ago, I think. They did a great job. But they didn't drive that message home, not over many years, actually. So again, this is the commitment, no? If you're going to brand Nepal, you need to have that commitment and tenacity to say you keep doing that in the right, consistent manner, and that what you are driving is to pull folks coming into your country. And at the same time, when they land in here, you need to make sure that the experience kind of tells you that's what it is, right? So that's basically it. And I mean, example, Truly Asia is basically saying that, and every single touch point feels a little bit like Asia, all of Asia in Malaysia, I guess that's what they're trying to hint at. So obviously they've done a reasonable good job. I wouldn't say they've done a great job. It kind of worked.
Achut, do me a favor. Go to Ncell's YouTube and then find a video of an event that I did for Ncell in Qatar. There's a video on their YouTube page back in the day. I really want to show you that. I completely forgot about that. When you just talked about it, and when we'll come to us the end of it. We did an event.
Was that in the last 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, that was in the last 4 or 5 years.
I wanted to join that. I can't remember why I missed that.
Yeah.
I think it was in 17.
I completely forgot. There are
Yeah.
tons of art. We did a couple of countries. We just didn't do. Oh, there you go. Yeah, play this. Stop for just a second. It was called Ramailo Jamghat, and we did it in Qatar.
Yeah.
And there's a special moment in this video that I really want to show you, and I want to thank Ncell for that moment. And go for it. Play it, bud.
Awesome.
Look at the amount of people.
Awesome.
What's going on, buddy? It's not playing.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. That's the smile, you know. That gets me going every day.
Well, it is.
And in just in a second, you'll see the lights, I believe.
Is that you and Priyanka?
Yeah, that's me and Priyanka back in the day. And look at that lights. Look at that.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's the smile that
Yes.
gets me going, you know, every single day. And that's the listeners here and the smiles at the stage. And that's something that gets me going, you know. What gets you going every single day in the morning when you wake up? What is it, Andy?
Wow. That that I have a job to do, and the job to do is to live, to have an impact on one individual. That's basically what gets me going. Obviously, it's more than one individual. For me, as a CEO, I interact with a lot of folks. I don't sit in my office only. I walk everywhere in the floors, and that's how I interact with folks. I like to see people smile because I solve a problem for them, or I give them a listening ear that we know you're doing a lot of things here. Da da da.
Just, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
All right.
So
Yeah.
that's what gets me going. If it's not for the people, I will have no interest in doing this work. Why? 61, I would call it a day, and go and play golf and do my cycling.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah. It's a smile
Yeah.
every single day. And again, I want to personally thank you. And again, it's been an experience knowing you, and it's always every time. You know, a couple of days back as well. I'm going to send you a photo and show it, because I promised everybody right in the beginning that we're going to end with a photo. And
Excellent.
we were taking a selfie. No, we took a selfie, but there's somebody taking a selfie, and then you were walking by and you joined us for the selfie. And that's the work culture of Ncell. The boss is chilling out with everybody, and that was something really exciting. And for me personally, you know, that is how it should be done, so that you're accessible to everybody, you know, accessible to your people.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's what gets me going.
And that's what gets you going, and
Yeah.
I'm glad. And I'm sure there are a lot of friends who definitely want to be a part of Ncell. Anything you want to say to the young friends who probably want to join Ncell, Andy, down the road?
Yeah, we have been pretty aggressive with getting intern programs. We did that for 2 or 3 terms over the last 2 years during COVID. Unfortunately, some of these interns didn't even step into the office because we started the program during COVID lockdowns.
Yeah.
But I see a tremendous excitement in their faces, and etc. etc. So we are looking at when to restart it in a better way, and so on and so forth. Yeah. We encourage all the these young folks to to think of Ncell definitely, and that where there's opportunity, we are most welcoming to speak to them.
Yeah, and I have a photo and a very fun video that I want to share with everybody right at the end. There's a video that I took, if that's okay with you, I'm going to share it. X, go ahead.
Sure.
That's you and me at the party, and then show this video that I just sent you, because this is the fun stuff. This one is the one that is my favorite one, and I really want everybody to understand the culture that is. You know, I really had a ball of a time that day, and there's one video that I really want everybody to see, and then we'll call it and a picture as well. Pull up the video, and we'd like to thank Andy for his time. And this one is my my favorite. Go ahead, play it. We're all dancing, and then. There you are dancing along.
Now you embarrass me, huh?
No, open this last photo that I just sent you, and and I wanted to show you this photo because I was right backstage, and what you just said, which complements what you just said. It's for the smile. It's for the people, and you wake up every day and do it for the
Yeah.
individuals that you work for and the impact that you're trying to create. Open this photo. That's you and that's your team.
Excellent.
Thank you very much
Sanjay.
for your time.
I had a ball, so thanks so much for having me. I hope I've done justice to your program.
Yeah.
You have a great show.
Come back again.
It will be my pleasure.
And we'll sit and talk about all the satellites that I'm interested about and the space.
Happy to.
Definitely. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank
Have
you
a
very
good
much.
day. Yeah.
All right.
If you love what we are doing, make sure that you subscribe and turn on notifications.
This program is brought to you by Vyas Studios.